My name is Amy Snyder, and I'm 27 years old. I live with my mom and dad. We've always been a family of 3 since I was little. I've always looked up to my dad because he runs his own business. He's always busy and not home much, but whenever he has free time, he comes back to spend time with me. He's a great dad. My mom is different. As far as I can remember, she's never worked a day in her life. She takes care of things at home but never helped with my dad's business or worked outside the house. I knew we were well off because my mom always looked nice and went out a lot, but seeing her like this, I realized that I didn't want to end up like her. She's never been interested in kids, and she didn't pay much attention to me. There were times when I felt very lonely, but my dad was always there for me. I think he knew how my mom was and made sure I didn't feel left out. One day, when I came home, I said, "I'm home, Mom." She answered, "Oh, is it that late already? I'm going out, so eat some snacks and take care of the house, okay?" I reminded her, "Didn't we promise to go shopping today and make curry?" She said, "Sorry, something came up, we'll do it next time." As a child, my mom broke promises like this easily. At first, it made me cry, but over time, I learned not to expect much from her. My dad, though, was different. He always kept his promises and never made excuses. Because of this, I grew to trust and admire him. I even begged him to let me work at his company after I graduated from college. Since I was an only child, I started to think I could take over his business one day. When I turned 20, my dad started taking me out for drinks, and I learned a lot from him. My mom didn't really get involved in my life as I grew older. The only time she ever spoke to me about my future was in my second year of college. One day, I told my dad, "Dad, I want to work at your company after I graduate. I've started studying for it, and I want to take over someday." But my mom interrupted and said, "Amy, are you sure? A girl doesn't need to do that." I asked, "Why not?" She answered, "A woman should find a good man and let her husband take care of everything." That was such a typical thing for her to say, so I didn't continue the conversation. I didn't want to live a life like my mom, depending on someone else. I wanted to be a strong woman who could live on her own. So, during college, I worked hard and, after graduation, joined my father's company. I couldn't change my mother's mind, but she eventually gave up. She said, "If you want to live your life this way, fine, but you'll suffer for not listening to your mother. If you're okay with that, then do whatever you want." So, I joined my father's company, and as I did, the distance between my mom and I grew even more. Meanwhile, I spent more time with my dad, and our bond became stronger. Looking back, I think my mom wasn't happy with how things were turning out. When I joined my father's company, he worked hard to train me, but there was a reason for that. My father was sick. It took about 6 months for him to introduce me to everyone and teach me the job. Then, he collapsed at work and was taken to the hospital. For the next 5 years, he fought his illness. One day, my mom asked, "How's the company? Is it running smoothly without your dad?" I replied, "It's really hard right now, but everyone is supporting me. I'm sure it will be fine because Dad trusted me with everything." My mom then said, "Well, if a woman takes over and causes the company to go bankrupt, it will be a real shame. Be ready for that." I answered, "Mom, you don't care about the company, you only care about what others think. It's sad to hear you say that." When my father first got sick, my mom and I often argued. On his good days, my dad would visit the company, but over time, his health got worse. After 5 years, he was almost bedridden. The last time he could visit the company, he said, "This company and its employees are very precious to me, but I have to let go of my treasure. Over the past few years, I've watched you work. Amy, I think I can trust you with it. Please, protect this place and everyone here for me." I wasn't sure if I could be like my dad, but I promised I would try my best to become more like him, the person I'd always admired, so he could rest easy. From that day on, I took over as the company's representative. I was so busy that I barely had time to go home. Since my dad was mostly in the hospital, I made sure to visit him often. My mom did the bare minimum, like bringing him fresh clothes, but it seemed like even that bothered her. I couldn't help but wonder how my mother felt about my dad. Did she have any feelings for him? Did she feel any gratitude or pity for him as he was sick? I felt sorry for my dad, thinking about how hard he had worked for me when I was little, especially since my mother had never been there for me. No matter how tired I was, I made sure to visit him as much as I could. I kept up this routine for about a year until he passed away peacefully in his sleep. I was so busy with work that I hardly had time to grieve. My mother, who didn't understand, insisted I handle everything, the funeral arrangements and the hospital paperwork. I knew she'd never been involved in these kinds of things, so I took care of everything quietly. The day after the funeral, my mom said, "The funeral's over, and you've settled down, right? Please leave this house. I've inherited 200 million yen, so I don't need you anymore." I wasn't surprised. I had been expecting her to say something like that. I realized it wasn't worth talking to her anymore. Did she really think having money meant she could just live a carefree life? I had a lot of questions, but I decided to leave. The next day, I called a moving service, sold all my belongings, and left. My mom was shocked by how quickly I had arranged everything. However, I had kept a secret from my mother. She claimed she had inherited 200 million yen, but the truth was, my father had trusted me with all the money matters, and I was the rightful heir. There wasn't a single penny left for my mother. My father had made it very clear when he was still healthy. "Your mother doesn't understand anything about money. I want you to give her monthly household expenses. If she gets a large sum of money, she'll probably go bankrupt right away, but if she complains, tell her you won't give her a single penny." Then, my father handed me an SD card. He said it contained a video message for my mother. I never thought I'd need to show it to her, but with how things were going, I felt it might happen soon. After I left, I knew my mother, alone in the big house, would contact me, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. She called and said, "Come home immediately." I replied, "What are you talking about? I'm working." She insisted, "I just need to talk to you. Please come quickly." I thought about how self-centered she was. With that in mind, I went back to my childhood home, taking the SD card with me. As soon as my mother saw me, she started accusing me. "You ran off with all of your father's inheritance, didn't you? I knew something was wrong when you left so quickly. Hand over your father's inheritance to me now." Her greed was overwhelming. I replied, "How greedy can you be? You can't even act like a proper mother. Who do you think you're talking to?" I quietly handed her the SD card. She asked, "What's this?" I mocked her, saying, "I guess you don't even know how to watch this." I took out my laptop, inserted the SD card, and played the video. On the screen, my father appeared, looking as healthy as ever. I left the room in silence, wondering how my mother would react to this video. I had never seen her go against my father, but what about now, after his death? Would my father's words reach her? When I returned to the room, my mother, who had finished watching the video, was crying. I couldn't believe it. My mother was crying while watching a video from my deceased father. I was curious about what my father had said in the video, but I didn't have the courage to watch it myself. I had no idea why my mother was crying. "Mom, are you okay?" I asked. She replied, "Yes, I understand now. I'll follow your father's instructions and leave everything to you. Please go home for today. Call me again when I've cooled down." I thought she didn't want me to see her in a vulnerable state, so I left, but that day, I couldn't stop wondering how my father had managed to silence her. Almost a month passed without hearing from my mother. I started to worry, so I decided to visit my parents' house during my lunch break. When I got there, my mom wasn't home. That night, I went again, and the lights were on, which made me feel better. "I'm sorry for dropping in suddenly," I said. "I came by this afternoon, but you weren't home, and I got worried." She replied, "Sorry, I was out at my part-time job." "A part-time job?" I was shocked. My mother, as far as I knew, would never work. "How did this happen?" She said, "Didn't you watch that video? It was a letter from your father to me." "I didn't watch it," I admitted. "You should watch it, Amy." My mother handed me the SD card and said, "Well, then." I felt a bit scared to see what my father had said, especially after noticing my mother's strange behavior. I went back to the office, sat at my father's desk, and played the video. My father's voice came on. "Honey, if you're watching this, it means you haven't been able to talk to Amy. First, I want to thank you for helping me raise Amy. Without you, I don't think I could have managed the company and raised her." Something felt off about how my father was speaking, and then he said something shocking. "You've taken care of Amy, even though she's not your child, and I'm grateful for you being by my side all these years, but because of that, you've given up on your own dreams and never earned your own living. I take responsibility for that because I let you live a life of luxury. I'm sure you'll have trouble when I'm gone." I couldn't believe what my father had said. I wasn't my mother's biological child. I was so shocked that I blurted it out, but then everything started to make sense. Even though I hadn't felt much love from her, My mother had taken care of me by cooking and doing the bare minimum for a child who wasn't her own. I wondered, who was she really? Then I remembered what my father had said in the video. He explained that he had married my mother because she felt sorry for her sister, my biological mother. He ended up supporting their life together, but didn't do anything else. My father said he felt responsible for everything because he had let my mother live a life of luxury, and now she would have to face the future without any support. I couldn't believe my father's words. It was all news to me. He kept talking about the past and what he hoped for our future. I spent the whole night thinking it over. The next day, I went back to my mother. "Mom," I said, "I watched the video from Dad yesterday. You know everything now." She replied, "I raised you because I was asked to, that's all." I asked, "What happened to my real mother?" My mother explained, "You were the child of my sister and your father. My sister died right after giving birth to you. Your father was really upset. So I told him I'd help raise you. I promised him I would become your mother." When I heard my mother's story, everything made sense, even the things I had imagined. My mother had worked in a diner, and my father used to eat there. She was lively and hardworking, with a dream of owning her own diner, but when she decided to raise me, she gave up that dream. After hearing my father's words, my mother decided to work toward her dream again. She started training as a part-timer to make it happen. "I should have done this earlier. Working is fun, and it suits me," she said. I told her, "I had no idea. It's my fault you didn't work. I'm really sorry for not understanding." "It's not your fault, Amy," my mother said. "I made the decision myself, but I'm not good with children. I couldn't handle you well, and I'm the one who caused you trouble." I never thought I would have this kind of conversation with my mother. At this point in my life, I finally felt like I understood her a little bit. Since then, we've had many talks, and we decided to use the money left by my father to help open her shop. Once she started working, she became more humble. When we talked about funding for her shop, she was hesitant, which would have been unthinkable not too long ago. While keeping my regular job, I also helped my mother open her diner, which meant I saw her more often. I believe this new relationship we have is thanks to my father. As for living expenses, my mother insisted on supporting herself with the income from her diner. She didn't want to accept any help from my father's inheritance. "Promise me that if you're struggling, you'll let me know," I told her. "Dad trusted me to take care of you. I'll be fine living on my own. It doesn't cost much, but for the diner's expenses, I'll rely on you," she replied. "I'm looking forward to it. Do your best." After many years, we finally became a real family. We're now living together, peacefully. She may not be my birth mother, but I think it was the right time for me to learn the truth. "Your diner is finally opening tomorrow. Your dream is coming true," I said. "Seeing you work so hard at the company reminded me of my own dreams when I was younger." She smiled. "That's why I've made it this far. It's all thanks to you and your father. Thank you so much." "Mom," I said, "promise me you'll always be my mom." She hugged me and said, "Amy, from now on, let's get along even better than before. After all, we only have each other." "That's true," I agreed. After my father passed away, the truth was revealed. I accepted it and decided to live on with just my mother and me. As I saw how she lived, I thought about moving back to my hometown to live with her again. I don't cook, so my mother was worried about my diet and supported me in coming back. My father would probably be surprised that my mother and I are getting along so well. I'm determined to protect the house, the company, and the inheritance he left behind while continuing to strengthen my relationship with my mother. To become a real family, we visited the graves of both my father and my biological mother, my mother's older sister, to give them updates about our lives. After going through the adoption process, I was finally registered as my mother's daughter.